The first thing out of his mouth wasn't a question, it was an order. Hand over the pool keys. Karen stood a few feet behind him, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just launched an airstrike. I looked from his badge back to her. You really sent your husband for this? I asked. She didn't blink. You ignored 3 notices. The pool belongs to the community. He squared his shoulders like he was proud to be her muscle. It's on my property, I said. Not according to her, he snapped. Karen stepped closer, voice sharp. Cooperate, or we escalate. The heat coming off the 2 of them could have boiled the water behind me, one hiding behind authority, the other feeding off it. But under all that pressure I was smiling, because while she thought this was about pool keys, it wasn't. It was about power, and she had just walked straight into the middle of my investigation. So when her husband repeated keys now, I stepped forward and said, steady and calm, you might want to check who you're threatening, officer. They didn't know it yet, but I was already investigating both of them. And by the way, where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? When the patrol car finally rolled away, I stared at the reflection of the lights fading across the water. My hands were steady, my heartbeat wasn't. It's not every day your neighbor tries to steal your pool keys using a husband's badge, because this was never about a pool. With people like her, it's always about control. My name's Cole. I moved back here last spring after my dad passed. This house has been ours since the 70s, built by his hands. Stone pool, cedar porch, carved from sweat and stubbornness. I came back to restore it, not fight over it. 6 weeks later, the HOA showed up. New board, new rules, same attitude. Leading it, Karen Langford, retired realtor, self-appointed queen of community standards. Every sentence sounded like it belonged in a brochure. Smile polished, eyes sharp. The first notice came 2 days after the welcome meeting. Unapproved structure detected. Pool requires inspection. My dad's pool, the one she called a liability. I ignored it. Then came fines. Then came letters. Then came tonight. She sent her husband, badge and all, because intimidation was her favorite tool. What she didn't know was that intimidation is just another form of paperwork, and I've spent my whole life handling worse. She thought this fight would happen on her turf. She didn't realize it was about to move to mine. I grew up on this land long before there were fences and rules. Back then it was just me, my dad, and a patch of wild earth that smelled like pine and gasoline. That pool wasn't built by contractors. It was carved out by hand. Pops mixed concrete in a wheelbarrow, set stone by stone, and told me, never let anyone claim what you've built. I didn't understand it then. Now it's the line I live by. Every summer was the same. Cicadas humming, hammer ringing, water hissing into the stone basin. Pops didn't believe in shortcuts. He built things to last. When he died, I promised I'd keep what he built alive. So when I moved back, I patched cracks, fixed the filter, cleaned the leaves. For a few months, it felt like he was still here. Then Karen knocked. Welcome to the neighborhood, she chirped. Blazer in July, pamphlet in hand. Community harmony guidelines. I skimmed it. She smiled wider, like she just tightened a leash. A week later, at the HOA meeting, she announced loudly, Mr. Cole, you have an unregistered water structure. Laughter. I said, it's a pool. Unregistered, she repeated like she was savoring the word. That's when I realized Karen didn't care about safety. She cared about power, and she wasn't doing it alone. Her husband's cruiser would sit near my driveway on random nights, far enough back to avoid suspicion, close enough that the headlights hit my mailbox. No ticket, no reason, just presence. The kind that whispers, we're watching. The first night, I stood on the porch and watched the clock pass midnight. He didn't move. Neither did I. He wanted me to feel cornered. I wanted him to know I wasn't built for fear. So I started keeping records, dates, photos, letters. Dad taught me construction. The bureau taught me documentation. And the truth only matters when it's written down. In the next weeks, the invasion began, one yellow notice at a time. A drone hovering overhead. A neighbor walking their dog while taking pictures. Karen called it community vigilance. I called it stalking. One morning I caught her at my fence with a clipboard. You know that's trespassing, right? I said. She smiled. Just verifying compliance. Unauthorized pools can drain community water. I almost laughed. The pool runs off the same natural spring my dad tapped 40 years ago. No community lines, no shared meter, just groundwater and gravity. So I started digging deeper, through HOA by noise limits, fence colors, grass heights, but not a single clause granting control over natural springs or private pools outside a recorded easement. Then I pulled county plat maps, deeds from the 70s. Water rights. The spring wasn't even inside the HOA boundary. But HOAs don't need authority when they have audacity. The next weekend, she escalated. A $2,500 fine for illegal community water use. No hearing, no notice. Just a debt she invented. I confronted her while she trimmed roses. Is this a joke? I asked. Rules are rules, she said. Payment details on the back. I don't owe you a dime. She stepped closer. You think you're special because that pool was your daddy's. Round here, we do things by the book. Whose book? I asked. Mine, she said. The sound of her shears snapping shut felt like a warning shot. That night, I sat by the pool, sorting through old records, deeds, photos. It smelled like pine and chlorine, the same mix my dad used to breathe after long days of work. And I heard his voice in my head, "Don't let anyone claim what you've built." For the first time I understood. This wasn't about fences or water. It was about truth, about someone trying to rewrite it. Karen thought she'd won. She thought a fine and a threat would make me bow. But intimidation is just an invitation, and she had just invited me to fight back. I gathered everything, every letter, every photo, every record. I built a folder the way Pops built this pool, layer by layer, stone by stone, permanent. Then I wrote her a reply, one line in bold. "You want paperwork? You'll get paperwork." I dropped it in the HOA mailbox and walked home under the moonlight glinting off her husband's cruiser. But this time, I wasn't angry. I was focused, because the next round wouldn't be about neighborhood rules. It would be about law. And I play by federal standards. If she wanted a battle, she was finally going to get one. I organized everything. Digital files, paper folders, timelines, motives. The case wasn't just building itself. It was practically writing its own ending. The next morning, she pulled up unannounced. The golf cart idled in my driveway, engine still buzzing like her nerves. "I hope you read the notice," she said, arms crossed, acting like she owned the air around us. "Failure to comply will escalate matters." I stared at her. "Karen, you've escalated enough." She tilted her head, almost smiling. "Then we understand each other." I gave her one perfect nod. She drove off feeling victorious. She had no idea she'd just crossed the one line you don't cross with me. She made it personal. I spent the rest of the day in silence, organizing everything into one neat stack labeled HOA fraud active evidence. Under it, I slid her latest letter, preserved in a plastic sleeve. In my line of work, it's always the smallest detail that cracks a case wide open. By sunset, the pool lights shimmered across the folder in my hands. I thought of Pops sitting here years ago, sipping from his old thermos and saying, "Some people build, others control. Builders win in the long run." I closed the folder, breathed deep, and whispered to myself, "You wanted paperwork. Karen, you're about to get the federal kind." The next morning after her CSN desist, I went straight to the county records office. No coffee, no distractions, just a flash drive and determination.
For weeks, I'd been reacting. Now it was time to go on offense. The clerk raised an eyebrow when I requested historic plats and old environmental filings. People usually ask about fence permits. I asked about water rights. She handed me a dusty binder older than half the neighborhood. I flipped through faded maps until I saw it. My property line, bold black ink stretching past the HOA boundary. And near the bottom, Federal Watershed, Protected Area Langford Spring filed under my father's name. The water feeding that pool wasn't just private, it was under a federal environmental easement. No HOA, no board, no community vote. They had zero authority beyond the fence line. I scanned every page, saved every map, photographed every stamp. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, 1979. Pops filed it himself. I sat there staring at the date, hearing his voice again. "I built this place to last longer than the people who think they run it." He was right. I walked out not just with proof, but with leverage. I called an old bureau contact named Miller, now in environmental crimes. Kept it light. Possible interference with a federally protected watershed, I said. He didn't ask for details. Send what you've got. That night, I assembled a folder labeled Preliminary Evidence, HOA Interference Maps, Letters, Drone Photos, Fake Notices, and HOA financial records signed by her husband. The next day, Miller called back. "This looks dirty. We'll do a surface check." No promises. That's all I needed. A whisper of authority makes corruption panic. Over the next days, I quietly built alliances. Linda, the HOA treasurer, had been looking drained for months. She hated Karen's power games. When I asked, "Ever wonder where the maintenance money goes?" she laughed bitterly. Every day. That night, she showed up in my garage after dark. One lamp lit the workspace. She slid a stack of invoices across the bench. Pool maintenance from companies that no longer existed. Fake businesses. Fake repairs. Real money. "That's theft," I said. "That's Tuesday," she replied. For the first time in months, I wasn't alone. My next ally lived 2 houses down, Tom Willis, retired city planner, sharp as a scalpel. When he saw the maps, he raised an eyebrow. "They're pulling water from a federal watershed?" I nodded. "And fining you for it?" He whistled. That's not just illegal. That's stupid. Tom helped me cross-check everything. Karen had doctored the HOA boundary map, stretching control 50 feet beyond the legal limit. She'd literally drawn new lines and handed them out to residents. This is what happens when power gets bored, Tom muttered. We spent hours digging through every HOA document we could find. Fake fees, ghost service providers, inflated landscaping bills, and at least 3 checks a month signed by Officer Langford, her name on the memo, his signature on the approval line. Husband and wife, laundering HOA money. I added everything to my evidence wall. 2 thick folders. Another labeled financial manipulation, active case. Then the neighborhood tension shifted. I'd gone quiet. Karen noticed. Silence scares predators. Within a week, flyers showed up on mailboxes. Non-compliant resident. Community safety concern. My address. A photo of my house. Fear bait. I tore one down and laughed. She was slipping. Desperation makes people sloppy. The next morning, Langford showed up again, this time in civilian clothes, hands in pockets. You should back off these accusations, he said. You look paranoid. I'm not accusing, I said.
I'm documenting.
He smirked. Keep filming. Maybe you'll get famous. As he walked away, I noticed a gold ring on his finger, engraved BL, not HOA. A custom ring from a fake maintenance company. He wasn't just signing checks, he was part of the shell company. I sent the photos, contracts, signatures, and ring images to Miller. His reply was short. Stay quiet. You're sitting on felony-level fraud. For the first time in months, I felt calm. But peace doesn't last in a power war. Karen could sense the shift. She escalated again. A new flyer appeared. Bold red ink. HOA violator. Dangerous property owner, my photo. My address. Signed Community Watch. She weaponized shame. Cowardly, manipulative, predictable. Whispers started in the neighborhood. A couple near my gate. That's him, the guy with the illegal pool. I stepped outside. They scattered like pigeons. Then came the anonymous notes. Leave while you still can. Sell before fines triple. You're not wanted here. All on official HOA stationery. She didn't even bother hiding it. I logged every note, sealed them, dated them. My binder now looked like a novel. 2 days later, Miller emailed again. We found inconsistencies. Keep collecting. So I dug deeper into their pool insurance. Listed as a major budget expense. I searched state databases. Nothing. Corporate records? Dissolved. Shut down 5 years ago. Their insurance was fake. They'd been charging homeowners for coverage that didn't exist. I sent it all to Miller and Linda. Linda's reply was instant. Oh my God. She's been paying herself. That night, Karen drove slowly by my house in her golf cart. I stood on the porch and waved. For the first time, I saw fear in her face. Power doesn't go quietly. Claws. It screams. It spreads lies to survive. She went door to door spinning stories about me being under investigation. But the real investigation was already happening around her. Her lies grew louder. Her control weaker. The HOA website soon posted a statement accusing me of tampering with community property, claiming I damaged the pool gate and stolen equipment. She even attached photos of my own backyard as evidence. Pathetic. Neighbors started slipping me quiet notes. I know what she's doing. She's unraveling. That's how tyrants fall. Meanwhile, my binder kept growing. Ghost invoices. Dissolved companies. Fake insurance filings. Her husband's signature everywhere. Federal codes violated left and right. Specifically the law that prohibits public servants from using their position for private gain. Officer Langford had been her muscle. Her enforcer. Her signature machine. Miller confirmed it. If this checks out, these are serious charges. What happens now? I asked. Keep doing what you're doing, he said. Stay quiet. People like her always hang themselves when they think no one's watching. So I stayed quiet. Karen hated it. Silence made her frantic. She sent petty notices, grass length, lighting brightness, even a noise complaint when I wasn't home. Every letter was another signature, another nail. One evening, her husband parked near the corner again. I walked out calmly. "Evening, officer." "Nice night for community service," I said. He froze. "You might want to tell your wife to file real insurance paperwork." His face drained of color. He drove off without a word. That night, I looked at the pool, still, glowing softly. For the first time, it didn't feel like a target. It felt like a boundary, a line they couldn't cross again. They tried drowning me in paperwork. Instead, I built a case that could bury them. Then came the email titled, "Emergency Community Enforcement Meeting, Attendance Mandatory, Her Final Act." The public showdown. The staged humiliation. But this time, I wasn't the only one recording. I'd agreed to wear a wire. Bureau van half a block away. "Stay calm," Miller had said. "She'll dig her own hole." Saturday arrived heavy with heat. The clubhouse windows glowed. Silhouettes inside. Neighbors seated. Karen up front. Her husband beside her. He wasn't in uniform, but the holster was still there. Symbol over substance. The room went silent when I walked in. "Mr. Cole," she said sweetly, "we're here to resolve your many violations." I said nothing, just sat near the front, close enough for the mic to catch every word. She paced dramatically, slideshow behind her, photos of my pool, my gate, even my security cameras. "This is what happens," she declared, "when one resident refuses to respect community standards." Her husband stepped forward, envelope in hand. As acting enforcement liaison, he said, "I'm here to collect the community's property, specifically the pool keys." The room tensed. I didn't. "You really want to make this official?" I asked. Karen blinked. "Excuse me?" I stepped closer. "Then let's make it official." Outside, I heard it, the sound I'd been waiting for. Low rumble. Engines turning the corner. Multiple vehicles. Federal vehicles. One black SUV rolled up. Then another. Then a third. Blue lights strobed through the clubhouse windows. Karen laughed nervously. What's happening?" I turned to her. "You're about to find out." Her husband opened the door. Blue light flooded in. Federal agents. A voice commanded, calm and final, "Step back from the entrance." 2 agents walked in, badges raised. Behind them, Miller. Gray suit. Calm eyes. Authority without effort. He nodded at me once before turning to Karen. "Mrs. Langford," he said, "we have a federal warrant to seize HOA financial and operational records related to property fund misuse and jurisdictional fraud." "Step aside." "What? This is absurd. We're a homeowners association, ma'am," he interrupted. "You are under investigation for misappropriation of funds, wire fraud, and obstruction of federal property rights." Her husband stepped forward, hand drifting toward his holster. Instantly, 2 agents moved toward him. "Officer Langford," one said calmly, "remove your hand. You are not acting in any official capacity here." Karen panicked. "He's a police officer. You can't." "Not tonight, ma'am." Langford froze, then lifted his hands. Authority had left him, and reality finally arrived. The badge that once intimidated the entire neighborhood now hung useless at Langford's side. I stayed silent against the back wall while agents unpacked folders, cameras, and sealed evidence bags. One team began photographing every document on the HOA table. Another escorted Linda outside for her statement. For the first time, she actually looked free. Karen tried to regain control, her voice shaking between rage and desperation. "This is a setup. She pointed at me. "He's been harassing us for months." Miller didn't even look up. "Ma'am, we have your signatures on 12 falsified invoices, 3 shell companies registered to your address, and an expired insurance policy reported as active. I'd say you've been harassing yourself." Neighbors stared, stunned. A man in the back whispered, "About time." Karen's voice cracked. "I was protecting the community." Miller cut her off gently. "By stealing from it?" Her eyes darted between me and her husband. He couldn't even meet her gaze. His silence told the entire story. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. I just stood still and let the truth crush her louder than anything I could have said. Revenge suddenly felt unnecessary. When agents began reading their rights, Karen's voice broke. "You can't do this to me." A comm agent replied, "Ma'am, we already did." Years of fake power vaporized in seconds. For the first time in months, I felt something real, quiet justice. Karen lunged toward the table, screaming about mistakes, but an agent blocked her with one raised hand. "Ma'am, step back." Her polished confidence shattered under the fluorescent lights as neighbors filmed. Phones up, eyes wide, satisfaction mixing with shock. She built this stage. Now she was trapped in her own show. When things finally calmed, Miller turned to me. "Mr. Cole, thank you for your cooperation. We'll need formal statements, but you can head home soon." His voice was procedural. His eyes said, "It's over." Langford stared at the floor, realizing the badge he once used as a weapon was now evidence in a federal fraud case. Federal Code Section 200 wasn't just a rule anymore. It was his life unraveling. Karen tried one last time to twist the narrative. "He set me up. He's the reason this happened. He's not even supposed to be here. Miller lifted an eyebrow. "He's what, ma'am?" And that's when she finally saw it, the calm, the timing, the precision. Her face went pale. "You're not just a homeowner," she whispered. I met her eyes for the first time that night. "No," I said quietly. "I'm the reason they're here." Her knees buckled, and she grabbed a chair to stay standing. The room went silent except for shutter clicks capturing her downfall. Someone whispered, "Guess she picked the wrong guy this time." Even Miller cracked a tiny smile. They took Langford out first, hands behind his back. No cuffs, but enough to say everything. Karen followed moments later, still rambling excuses only she believed. Her voice faded outside as relief swept through the room like air after a long storm. I walked to the window. Red and blue lights reflected across the pool. The same pool she tried to steal from me. The pool my dad had built by hand. The symbolism hit hard. Power changes quietly, but justice makes noise. Miller approached. "We'll file everything. You'll get copies for your records. You did good," I told him. "I didn't do it for good," he said. "I did it for peace." And he was right, peace is the best kind. Neighbors slowly filed out, whispering thanks. A man I'd never met stopped and said, "Thank you for standing up to them." Another nodded with quiet relief. Fear had been replaced with gratitude. After the last car left, the night settled into a strange calm. Sprinklers kicked on, misting the lawns that had once been battlegrounds of petty control. For the first time in months, it sounded peaceful. I sat by the pool's edge. The water glowed softly, still and steady. Next to it sat the evidence bag holding Langford's badge, the same badge he used to intimidate everyone. Now it just looked small, powerless. Miller was the last to leave. "You can finally rest," he said. But rest felt foreign. After months of fighting, peace feels suspicious. Still, I wanted to believe. I dipped my hand into the water and let it ripple. Pops always said water carries memory, that it remembers the hands that built it. I hoped he was right. This water witnessed everything. The lies, the abuse of authority, the fight to keep what was ours. Neighbors who once stayed silent now talked openly. Kids laughed again by the lake. The neighborhood felt like it exhaled after holding its breath too long. 3 weeks later, the fallout was complete. Karen was charged with wire fraud, misappropriation of funds, and falsifying documents. Her husband was suspended pending federal review. The HOA board resigned within days. And the residents, every one of them, voted to dissolve the association entirely. The first rule removed? Karen's favorite. All water features subject to community oversight. Poetic ending. I didn't celebrate. Real justice doesn't feel like fireworks. Feels like the quiet after a storm. I repaired my pool, fixed the tiles, resealed the stones my dad laid decades ago. Watching the water fill felt like time stitching itself back together. Linda dropped off paperwork one morning and handed me a motion signed by neighbors. They wanted to rename the spring that fed my pool in honor of my father. Langford Spring Preserve. I stood there holding the paper, hearing Pops in my head. "As long as it's still yours, son, that's what matters." I built a simple wooden sign with the name and planted a sunflower beneath it, my mom's favorite. She always said sunflowers don't chase the sun. They remember where it rises. Every morning when sunlight hits the water, I finally understand what she meant. The neighborhood healed. No more complaints, no more fines, no more fear. Just quiet. Just freedom. One afternoon, a kid asked me, "Is it true you beat the HOA?" I laughed. No, I just reminded them who they work for. People still call me the guy who ended the HOA. I don't correct them. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just a reminder that silence has limits. These days, I tap the wooden sign each time I pass it, remembering Pop's words. Never measure a man by what he controls. Measure him by what he protects. Karen's rules turned to dust. But the water kept flowing steady, free, unchanged. As the sun sets and the pool sparks with fading light, I sit with my coffee and listen to the crickets. The pump hums. And for the first time, peace actually feels earned. Maybe someone out there has faced their own Karen, their own fight, their own moment of quiet justice. Maybe they'll hear this story and realize they're not crazy for standing their ground. Because truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just holds. Have you ever seen someone abuse power simply because they could? Drop your HOA story below and tell me where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Neighbor Wars HQ for more real-life neighborhood showdowns.